Hello, Randy Rain here, and this is my adventures into Teddy and Grubby. I picked these guys up, and they were not working, and in order for me to figure out how to make them work, I had to figure out everything about them. I also learned that they need a proprietary cable, and the cheapest one was 60 bucks on eBay. So I'm going to show you how to change out the jacks so you can just use a regular TRRS cable. So this is going to be a two-part series, and up first is Teddy. So let me get started. You start in the back, of course. There are 4 screws, and then there's just clips to hold it in. Go ahead and pull this whole thing out. And it's really best to take a marker and mark some of these plugs that look the same, especially the servo ones. They all look the same, so make sure you get the right servo to the right one. I will be going over all these plugs, though. Okay, there. So the first stop is the cassette. The cassette has to work. There are 3 versions of Teddy. The first version, the tape player mechanism will be metal. This is a second version. There's a version 3 as well, and I think that one is different. But first up is changing the belt. If you wonder where to get belts, just go Amazon, eBay, any place and look for assorted cassette belts. They're dirt cheap. You don't need to know what size or anything. Just buy an assortment. They're rubber bands. It's the same price as buying a bag of rubber bands. Let's see. And if you don't have a good set of picks, get a good set of picks. They'll change your life. There. That's why you need picks. I don't think I can't get you on there. Aha. There you go. You gotta get up pretty early in the morning to outsmart me. And now while you're in the section here for the cassette, there is a switch here that as the cassette turns on and off. This was a problem on this one, and it's probably going to be a problem on a lot of them. There's too much oxidation, and it's not making good contact. As the tape turns, this needs to pulse. So you can use some deoxit or something like that, or you can use some fine sandpaper or an emery board or something and just scratch off the oxidation. The symptom for this right here, once you get it together and try it, if you turn it on and it plays for a little while, but then stops, and then you turn it off and turn it back on and it plays a little while and it stops, that's your culprit right there. If it's not detecting it, it's going to stop everything. Behind it. At this point, you need to move to the head. On the back of the head, there is a hand-sewn stitching back there, and that's what you need to cut, and that's what you're going to have to replace. There you go. Now we'll handle elector this thing. Teddy's head is made up of 3 servos, and a servo is made up of a motor and a potentiometer. You can think of a potentiometer like a variable resistor. And so as the motor moves, it also turns the potentiometer, and that's how it knows where it is, by it checking the resistance. All 3 of these servos and motors were all oxidized and not working, and so this is how you fix that. All right, I'm going to take this off and this one off. And I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Pull the potentiometer out. And I'm going to take this off. Then, if you get underneath there, you should be able to pull that one and slide it out. Yeah. Okay, I just have one of these big 6-volt batteries that I'm putting onto these motors. Right there. And you can see it's not turning. Just keep turning it, that shaft there. Oh, you tried. There you go. Now you just need some oil. Turn it to it stops. There. Okay. There and there. Looks like there. So, okay. There. That should be about halfway. Now, I can put a belt on here. Here's some of these silicone hair ties. Okay. That's somewhere halfway. Put this back like so. Go ahead and put these in. This piece right here is rubbing on this up here. And so it needs to be halfway up here, like that. Mash that on. Like that. Now that can go back on. So this is a potentiometer. And what you have is this piece right here. That is a resistor. And so positive gets on one side and negative gets on the other side. And this becomes a load. And then depending where you're touching this, you will get a different amount of positive or negative. And that's what this piece right here is doing, is touching this and moving back. And then it's traveling through here, and then it's being picked up back through these things, and then traveling to here. And so what the problem is it's not making good connection. So I took some sandpaper, and I went to town right here. I bent this up just a tad, just gave it a little pushing up a little bit, because I'm sure over time it's not as strong as it was. So I move it up, so it's pushing a little harder. Same thing with these little prongs here, pushing a little harder, and I get these a little scraping. That should be making really good connection. Now that can go back on. This can go back on. Okay, I guess, see, about halfway with the eyes. It can move and reset, but yeah, and then they get springs. There. 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 Goes in there. Quit fighting me. There you go. And let's go in. That snaps. Yeah, just like that. I did change out the plug, which I'm going to show you how to do. And I hooked it to Grubby, and Grubby wasn't working. So I needed to know how it worked to know what was wrong, because there was no other information that I could find. Ready to learn how Teddy works? Well, there are schematics online. You might be thinking, wow, those are pretty blurry. Well, it's not any better in real life, but I think I've worked it all out. So let's start here. This is over here is the power, the battery, and the switching and everything. This brings positive and negative to everything. Right above it is the amplifying circuit. This is the speaker, and there's the amplifier. And on the board, it's right here. This is the speaker out. This little chip right here is the amplifier, and here's the little capacitors around it. Now, if you move up to here, above that, these are the tape head electronics. And you'll see this bottom one down here. It's a little smaller electronics. If you follow it down, the output of it is coming down, and it's also going through this little JFET here, and that's just for filtering or clipping or something like that. But it eventually comes down here and goes into that amplifying circuit. It also keeps on going down this way, and that goes to Grubby or any other thing you hook to it. But we'll get into that. Now you'll see it above it is also the other tape head, but there's more electronics hooked to it. And it's more of these little op amps here. And you can see the signal is coming in to one side of this op amp. The other side of that op amp has a voltage divider circuit connected to it. But that voltage divider circuit also goes down here and goes to the input of this voltage comparator. And then the other input, which is 5 here, if you follow it up, it goes to the other side of this op amp here. 7 is the output here, and it comes up and it goes up to this main chip up here. And that chip is right here. And all the amp circuit, it doesn't show it, but it's actually here. It's this chip here. These are all the op amps that are being used for the cassette. But also on the output of the op amp, it's also going into this chip as well. And this is a serial to parallel chip. So it takes serial input and it turns it into parallel output. And then the parallel outputs go to each one of these, which are these guys right here. And those are the servo controls. So as the data comes in, it gets processed, and then it gets read, and the serial data gets turned into parallel data, which then controls the servos of the mouth and eyes and stuff. And that's it, except for right here. There's more. If you see right here, the audio is coming out, and this is where it's going to the amplifier circuit. But it also goes to this JFET here. And on the base of the JFET, there is this diode. It goes through this resistor, and then it comes down here to the output of this chip, and back to this other side of this voltage comparator. Because this voltage comparator has two sides, independent of each other. 2 and 3 are the inputs, and 1 is the output. And this really confused me for a long time. I could not figure out what was going on here. Why is this output going to an output? But it's also going over here to an input that is going to 3. There's also a resistor coming out of this that goes to 3, but there's a pull-up resistor here going to positive. So this is some sort of voltage divider here that's running off of the input that is coming here. It's very confusing, but ends up what is happening, this is what turns on the Grubby or whatever you have hooked to it. Because if you follow this line out, it goes to what says satellite power audio switch. Because Grubby doesn't have a switch on it, If you turn Teddy on, but don't play a tape, this will be at ground. As soon as the tape starts playing and audio starts coming in, this goes high, which turns on Grubby or whatever. And as soon as the tape is over, the audio cuts out, that goes low and turns it off. But what about the data going to Grubby? Well, that is right here. You can see the same output from this op amp up here that goes into this serial to parallel chip. It also comes down here and goes to this transistor, which is a 2N3904. Whenever that turns on, that allows ground to go out to the control pin that's going to Grubby. And so if you hook the scope up here and look for negative, you will see this pulsing. This took me forever to figure out what was going on, which is why I replaced that chip, because I thought it was broken, and I put it in a socket, but it totally works. There's nothing wrong with this circuit board. And this is the output pins. So here they are. This is ground. This is the audio signal. This is the switching audio and power. And this is the control. Now, if you're like me, you're going to need a good magnifying glass to see those tiny little numbers, tell you which one it is. That would be the other audio on a regular TRRS. Number 4 is for control, and so now when I plug this in and I look at the other end, this is ground. This is the power audio on and off. This is the control line. That is the audio. So my plug goes in here, and that's the cable to the plug. My switches come out. This is to ground. This is for the switching and the volume. That is the speaker. This is just a single positive. And these are the 3 servos. Okay, this is the heads, the cassette heads. This goes over here. This is the motor control here. Always mark these bad boys. That. This is the plug. This is positive. This is one of the servos. That's the other servo. And the last servo. Make it plugged in here. So everything gets tucked in. There. Well, this is called stitching the ditch. You have to pull it together. So that's everything I know about Teddy Ruxpin. Now, you ready to see it in action? Well, here he is with his friend Grubby.
Come dream with me tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there. My name is Teddy Ruxpin, and I would like to tell you a story. It's about the time when Grubby and Newton Gimmick and I had a most unusual experience.
You're right, Teddy, and it's an experience that I'll never forget.
Yes, I know, Grubby. It happened not long after Gimmick had invented his portable reducing machine. Like his original big machine, This tiny portable one could shrink people down to less than an inch high.
Yeah, it still used the same crystal from the hard-to-find city to make it work. But the good thing about the new reducing machine is that we could carry it along with us.
We were going back to the hard-to-find city in Gimmick's airship to see if we could discover any more clues about the crystals. The fire's almost hot enough for us to lift off now. Okay, Gimmick.
We'll start loading the supplies.
We didn't know it then, but someone else was very interested in what we were doing. It was the evil Tweeg.
So that's it for this video, and Grubby is up next, so stay tuned for that one. But if you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you want to see more stuff like this, hit the subscribe button. I want to thank these people here. These are the patrons. These are the people helping me out and bringing you the Teddy Ruxpin like this, and the Grubby. I couldn't do any of this stuff without them, so I thank them oh so very much. And if you'd like to become a patron and everything, please go check it out. Anyway, stay tuned for video number 2. Thanks for watching.
Something with that flying boat.
So what?
So what? What do you mean, so what? Ever since those other two showed up, Gimmick has been a real pain.
Oh?
Yeah, he used to be just an annoyance. Now he's a real menace.
How is he a menace, Tweez?
It's Tweeg! Tweeg! How many times I have to tell you my name is Tweeg? Now, why does that dumpy Gimmick have all the luck, and I don't have any luck? Why is he successful and I can't even pay the rent? Why do his inventions work and I can't even afford gunpowder for my cannon? Oh, if only I